Okay, so part 3 of this video is actually energy systems and skeletal. So, increased aerobic and anaerobic enzymes. Both types of enzymes are used to produce energy via converting it into ATP. Increases in these enzymes therefore means more ATP is produced and therefore more energy is produced. For example, the number of anaerobic enzymes increased to control the anaerobic phase of glucose breakdown. This increase will affect the body because the more glucose that can be broken down means more energy can be produced to fuel that an athlete will need at some point. With an increase in aerobic enzymes, muscle tissue then has the ability to generate ATP. So this increase in aerobic enzymes also means there is also more energy, or there is an increase in mitochondria, which means that more energy can be produced and supplied to fuel the athlete during that exercise. So that's both enzymes actually, both aerobic and anaerobic, broken down. So increased use of fat as a fuel source. So fats are used for endurance-based activities such as marathon, when an athlete's body has depleted their ATP and PC systems. So we can actually use our example of a marathon runner, the girl. So fat oxidation increases if you increase over a long period of time, due to fats being stored in very large molecules, so they need to be broken down. A lot when you are exercising in order to be used as fuel source is broken down. So fats also provide more ATP than carbohydrates, as they only need one oxygen to be broken down, whilst fats need two, really. This means although fats take longer to be broken down, processed, and that phase generally takes longer, more energy will be produced as a result of this. So really, fat is the key energy source here for our marathon runner, because she'll need more ATP. She wants an increase in ATP at some point, and changing to fats can do that. So glycogen sparing. During aerobic exercise, the body will primarily use glycogen as a fuel source. However, once the source is nearly depleted, the body spares a small amount of glycogen and switches to burning fat so that the athlete can continue working. This leftover glycogen is then only used if the body is in real need of it. For example, this is most common in marathon runners when they've burned up all their glycogen. So let's say our marathon runner has hit the wall and she literally only has fat stores left. So she switches from glycogen to fat stores. So LA inhibiting energy production. Pretty much lactic acid is created through glucose. However, as there is more LA, our body struggles and the rate to produce energy drops. This is because not only is it stimulating pain receptors, but it's also slowing down the process of the Krebs cycle and neuromuscular junction. So the body will struggle during the beginning of training and producing ATP aerobically, as well as having to remove LA. So in effect, LA is inhibiting energy production and allows OBLA to happen at a faster rate. However, our body slowly learns to train through this almost, so it's almost doesn't inhibit as much as it would without training. So lactic threshold. So pretty much as we train, our bodies become more tolerant to LA pain receptors, get triggered later on, and we also learn and train our bodies to prevent OBLA for as long as possible. So this is a positive, as not only hopefully give the body time to recover, but before OBLA, but it will also allow our bodies to prevent any sort of injury or fatigue. Obviously here we've got a lactate threshold graph to show that. So as you can see here, the blood lactate goes up, and obviously roughly here will be the threshold. So supplementation to ATP and PC stores. So the more athletes train, the higher their ATP and PC stores will become, allowing them to produce energy safely for a longer period of time without the effect of LA. So PC stores will allow an increase in, force and generation. So supplement gels and stuff like that, powders, drinks can be taken to increase that. However, that will be most likely used in, for example, a javelin throw. So for example, he'll take a supplementation just before he's about to throw. So he'll take supplements, there's a big spike in PC stores, and then he only uses PC while he's throwing the thing, or he's throwing the javelin, so that will allow him to use the energy that's right for that sort of task. So impacts of greater PC stores, as we said before, it's best for them to throw in the PC, so when you're in anaerobic and you're doing really quick, explosive activities, like, I don't know, like a weight-lift maybe, or again, shot put, javelin, it's crucial that when the PC stores are increased, you use all of it. So pretty much, it does increase its power, but it's more the longer lasting contraction. This will also help them throughout the event, as they'll be able to produce the same amount of force over multiple throws, giving them a higher chance of success. So LA buffering and OBLA. As we exercise, lactic acid levels begin to increase. So it begins to increase, especially in anaerobic exercise. The body does have its own buffer system to prevent muscle pH from rising. So lactic acid and the muscle tissue becoming more acidic, really. However, as the workout continues, your body's natural buffering system becomes unable to keep up with the acid levels. There are three main substances that buffer muscle cell tissue in rising pH, and that's like hydrogen ions, carnosine, phosphate, and biocarbonate, I think. However, the body's primary buffer in muscle tissue is kerosene, with phosphate as secondary. This, as a result, helps to delay OBLA and lactic acid buildup, allowing athletes to work for extended periods of time in between exercise periods. So as we delay OBLA, essentially, we have, less pain receptors being triggered. Lactic acid doesn't come in until then, so really, the longer we can put that off, the better we are, and the better the performance will be during longer periods. So I've got a blood lactate graph. We looked at this before. This is the adaptation, that line that we can see there. So as can be seen in the graph, our body becomes more tolerant to the effects of LA. Before training, we can see our body is creating large amounts of LA whilst doing exercise. However, after training, we have changed, and it takes a longer time for the build-up of lactic acid to happen. This is an advantage, as if we were working at sub-max, for example, it will take much longer for LA to be created, or starting to create it. So that threshold also, again, the change of the threshold will also allow us to go on for a longer period of time. Finally, BMR. BMR is defined as the rate at which the body uses energy, while at rest, to maintain vital functions such as breathing and keeping warm. In normal terms, it increases the breakdown of calories and makes the vital organs such as the heart more efficient. An example of this increases in stroke volume, allowing more blood to be pumped around the body and for more oxygen to reach the working muscles. So BMR, pretty much, the better BMR you have, the more efficient your vital organs are going to be. Your stroke volume will increase, and also the increase in breakdown of calories will also allow us to have that. Finally, skeletal adaptations. Aerobic benefits of the skeletal adaptations. During aerobic activities, skeletal adaptations will help them in a number of ways. Firstly, an increase in synovial fluid will allow muscles to be fully lubricated when exercising. We also have improvements in ligaments and more flexibility in ligaments, so allowing for us to have a longer stride. So for a runner, for example, she will increase her stride size, so the distance per stride will increase, meaning a better distance travelled with less energy. Bone density. So that's an adaptation that happens through training in the skeletal system. When you're exercising, your skeletal system responds by taking in more calcium into the bones. The cells that do this are called octoblasts. When you slow down, so the octoblast production. So obviously, during breaks and stuff like that, that's, as you slow down, so will the octoblast production. The higher you're working, the more octoblasts there will be. So when you're exercising, your bones are becoming stronger in a way due to the calcium increase. This is a benefit as it avoids injury. Bone density will increase, which is both an advantage and disadvantage. As you said before, it avoids the injury, but actually, as your bone is getting stronger, it's getting fairly widthier, chunkier, longer. That's actually carrying more weight as such, and it can be a disadvantage for, like, a runner, for example. Range of movements. As we said before, proprioceptors adapt and allow our muscles and ligaments to be stretching further. This increases range of movement and motions itself, as our body doesn't tell us to stop moving or stretching for a longer period of time. However, range of movement can be changed and increased by having stronger, flexible ligaments and muscles. So, cartilage strength. Moderate aerobic exercise seems to be adequate for increasing the cartilage thickness. As we train, we are able to make cartilage thicker in the body. Cartilage is firm, flexible tissue found in various forms in the surface of joints, so it's widespread in the skeleton. Being replaced by bone, it does get replaced by bone during growth. So without thick cartilage, it will lead to serious injuries between the bones. There's an example in away from two scenarios. A basketball player, Paul George, he had really thin cartilage, and his bones started rubbing against each other, and ended up one of them snapping during a game because there wasn't any cartilage rubbing between the two bones, simply because his cartilage wasn't thick enough. And finally, ligament strength. So a ligament will increase flexibility and strength when you exercise regularly due to them being stretched. Fibroblasts are cells that produce collagen when we exercise, which essentially allows our muscles to become more pliable and stretchy. This is beneficial as it allows us to move further and increase our stride, which could lead to an increase in performance if we're, for example, our runner increases their stride, or a javelin thrower increases the length that he can throw. So his arms stretching out further, so he's obviously letting go at a further rate, which could help him in performance in some way.